savages even at the most crucial moment, wedding ceremonies and the first wedding night among the peoples of Africa. Greetings! Today, we will talk about how weddings are held and the first wedding night begins in African peoples. Why brides leave after themselves bloody traces on white pieces of cloth. In which tribe does the groom have to make sure to sleep with his bride's relative? Is it true that in one of the African countries, future wives are shaved bald? And why do such a procedure? Be sure to watch the video to the very end. We assure you it will be very interesting. Egypt. Let's start with one of the most famous and visited countries in Africa, Egypt. Here, the wedding ceremony is quite specific, and all because, according to tradition, as a sacrifice should bring the virginity of the bride. If you think that this is done by the groom, we hasten to disappoint you. This procedure is performed by a midwife who is invited in advance on the most important day between the newlyweds. Such a woman, of course, is a specialist in this matter. To sacrifice the virginity of the bride, the midwife wraps a handkerchief around the fingers of her hand. The latter must necessarily be white or light in color. Upon completion of such a ritual, the woman's blood is shown to the groom's relatives. Bloodstains are 100% proof of the innocence of the bride. It is noteworthy that the bloody handkerchief is forbidden to be handed over to the groom after this procedure. Ethiopia. Surely, many of you know that the virginity of the bride during the wedding is highly valued in many nations. For example, this is the case in Ethiopia. In this case, the innocence of the newlywed is checked in the following way. The first wedding night begins with the fact that the bride brings with her a prepared head covering of white color. It is on this object that traces of blood should remain after the intimacy of the newlyweds. What is important is that the groom's witness, as well as the mother-in-law, remain in the house. They wait for the result outside the door. After the sexual intercourse comes to an end, the bride should bring out a bloody piece of cloth to the invited guests. If there is no blood, it is regarded as a complete distrust of the female representative. In this case, the groom has every right not only to punish the bride with a whip, but also to drive her out of the house, and even demand the full amount of the ransom as compensation. Zambia. An interesting tradition of spending the first wedding night is formed in Zambia. Apparently, this country is so serious about intimate matters that they even organize whole masterclasses on sex. Moreover, the wedding night begins before the wedding ceremony. Before entering into an intimate relationship, the bride is prepared in advance. In this, she is helped by relatives who have experience and ready to share it. The newly married girl carefully listens to all the advice and recommendations from the elders. And only after that, the bride is escorted to the groom's house, where the newlyweds begin to have sex. When the next day comes, the girl is interested in all the details of the night. And many people are interested in this question. Everyone wants to know whether the knowledge helped in practice or not. Tanzania. Have you ever heard about the absentee acquaintance of the bride and groom? Well, this practice is widespread just in Tanzania. In this country, newlyweds see each other for the first time only after the first wedding night. So it is customary that the parents of both the groom and the bride agree in advance among themselves. Moreover, the main celebration takes place without the bride, who waits for her new recruit at home. Then, the groom follows to the future wife with the onset of the wedding night. The newlyweds meet already in the bedroom. Thus begins the face-to-face acquaintance of two strangers who are destined to be together at last. Uganda. Oh, how some African tribes sometimes surprise with their talent and presence. So the Banyankola tribe, which is located in the northwestern part of Uganda, do strange things during weddings. The bride's aunt, who is considered an accomplished woman, must be sure to sleep with the groom. In Uganda, such a strange tradition acts as a test of the future spouse. The latter must prove that he does not experience difficulties in his potency. Plus, the groom demonstrates all that he is capable of at the moment of intimacy. But that's not the end of it. When the turn comes to sex between the newlyweds, the bride's relative doesn't go anywhere. This time, she acts as a teacher. In this way, the woman helps the newlyweds and tells them how to properly engage in intimacy. Rwanda. The well-known expression "beats means love" in one of the African countries has acquired a true meaning. You will be surprised, but in Rwanda, it is not a man who beats a woman. It is the latter who not only beats her future spouse, but actually beats the unfortunate one. Alas, this is not a crime at all, but an established tradition of the peoples of Africa. In Rwanda, the wedding night between newlyweds begins with beatings. It is believed that so the bride gets rid of all the accumulated anger and proves her supremacy in the family. And in the battle are not only fists, and all in a row. The groom must simply put up with it and survive the first night in the truest sense of the word. The Himba tribe. In Namibia, there is a tribe called the Himba. This people also have a very unusual tradition. Before the first wedding night, the bride's head is smeared with animal fat, mostly cow fat. The Himba tribe emphasizes on creating a special appearance for the future spouse. In addition to greased hair, the bride wears a special costume which also consists of animal parts. Then such a construction must necessarily be removed by the groom from his bride. And yes, if such a task is not performed, you can immediately put a cross on the first wedding night. Because the man could not remove the costume from the girl, and this is a prerequisite for the fulfillment of the Himba tradition, the Nua. In all likelihood, many of you have seen the bold girls and women of Africa. Once again, another wedding ceremony that requires African brides to shave their heads. Well, for this, let's travel to the country of Sudan, which is home to the Nua tribe. After the solemn wedding ceremony, relatives and friends of the bride take the girl to the groom's village. In this place, she is completely shaved off the hair on her head, and then they bring her back to the man. But why shave a woman's head? The Nua tribe believes that a bride with hair has no right to spend the first night with her husband. It's kind of a bad sign that must be gotten rid of in time. Shona tribe. In the Shona tribe of Africa, there is a tradition of uncertainty and mystery. The bride herself decides on what date to visit her groom. The latter does not know exactly when the first wedding night will come. So, the firmness of the man and his willingness to wait for the right moment is tested. The girl, as a rule, visits the groom not alone. She comes together with relatives and friends who arrange the most real dancing and singing. Then, the spouses get closer. In most cases, this happens in the house of the mother-in-law. Fortunately, this time, the newlyweds are alone with each other. Now no one can disturb them. And the next day, the spouses are waiting for the most real wedding ceremonies. Conclusion. Thus, Africa is known for the most unusual and shocking wedding traditions that are still carried out. And although some of them once again give away the true savages in the peoples, the fact remains. Each country sees many areas of life differently and observes them on a certain level.